Okay, this is my first video for AD331, and the first question I'm going to address is, what is the difference between AI, machine learning, and deep learning? And AI is sort of the basket for the whole field. AI is just humanity's broad attempt to mimic human processing and thinking. How can we make decisions based on a bunch of data, just like an enormous amount of data. So that's sort of the broad description for the whole field. And then within that, nested within that, will be machine learning, and then even deeper, deep learning. So machine learning is where you have a ton of data that's labeled, typically, and putting the labeled data into the that particular artificial intelligence. You hope that coming out of it, the output will be accurate to predict the accurate thing. So if you're putting in a ton of pictures of cats, you're aiming to get it to say, "Yep, these are cats," and then for incorrect data to label it incorrectly. So the goal is for eventually, when you move to unseen data, that the machine will have learned on all of the labeled data and be able to identify that information elsewhere. So that's machine learning. And then deep learning is a much sort of greedier paradigm where you have neural nets and many layers of the model has just many layers to go through, and it's how we come up with some of our more advanced technologies, like self-driving cars, or sort of the advanced language things we've been doing. That's a lot of, I'm trying to think. I think going back to machine learning, that's more of the recommendations. So based on a bunch of stuff put in, can we predict what someone's likely to like? Because it's much simpler labeling of data. But deep learning is, I think in some cases, self-teaching, and it's able to make a lot more connections than just sort of yes, no, based on labeled data. And so moving to my next point, what is, let me see, what was it? Oh, yes, supervised learning. Oh, and I think I have been talking about supervised learning a bit, since there's supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and then a third that I'm forgetting at the moment. But supervised learning is the giving data with a bias already. Well, bias is too loaded of a term, but just labeling data and telling your model what it means, so that eventually it will be able to predict based on your labels on other data that things match up. So, for instance, if I want to have a spam filter on my email, labeling a bunch of stuff as spam, I hope eventually that it'll be able to predict and match what is spam. Hopefully more than just block this sender. Obviously, but let me think. Okay, and then I'm just forgetting what the third question was. I think I've completely forgotten. Let me take a look. Third question. Oh, an example of a classification problem. I'm sorry. I'm just so tired that I've forgotten I know I grabbed an example and I've just forgotten what it was. Okay, bear with me 1 second. Oh, yes, that was what. So one very real world example is, how do you predict customers who are at flight risk? So with customer churn, how do you what would you employ in terms of artificial intelligence to try to predict which customers you want to like chase down with an offer or some reason to stay, or even just initially, how do we identify people who are a flight risk? So that's the situation, and then our task would be one option could be to make an artificial intelligence, a model to take in customer data, and probably we would label it like this is flight risk behavior, and have it go through I think you could do this multiple ways, but probably supervised learning would be preferable because you get farther. Or at least it'd be simpler for a small company to label a bunch of data and feed it into the model and hope that it learns to accurately predict when given unseen data, like customers. Maybe I know that you set aside a certain amount of data so that there's unseen data and you can use that to test the model. So once you've made your model, you would then give it unseen data, and then hopefully be able to identify customers who are a flight risk, and then using your model do as like a risk assessment, basically do whatever you want as a company to attempt to retain those customers. So maybe better offers, or some kind of promo depending on your business. So I think I've got it. Thanks, and I'll see you soon.